Um, today is going to be about reflection, some quiet time, some sharing with another person, kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. And we're going to talk about change. So from the title, Immunity to Change, it tells you that a lot of us have difficulty with change. But I guess I want to start with the first slide that just really asks the question, how many of you have tried to change something about yourself or within your organization? And from the introductions, I hear some people are in life transition. So you're embarking on some big changes right now with their inability to be successful in these changes. Have any of you struggled with a habit that's holding you back? And how many of you think change is difficult? And I know Reba has asked for people to put in the chat your name and the biggest challenge you have difficulty with making, the biggest challenge you have in making change in your life. And some of the answers to change, well, why can't you change? Oh, they lack discipline or motivation. Afraid of the unknown. Well, I don't have the skill. Those are
Roxanne, we lost your voice.
How about now?
Okay.
I hate to turn my camera off, Reba, but I don't know what's going on. I'll turn it on again shortly.
Okay.
Okay. But I would love to hear from folks in the chat, or if you want to say it out loud, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have had in making changes in your life?
Tina, did you unmuted?
Yeah, I have one. Accepting where I am now as opposed to where I thought I would be at this age.
Mm. Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
That's a big one. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alice, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I share that first one. Yes, fear of potential move. Yes, thank you.
So I'm struggling with moving, like I said, from a corporate, actually I'm a change consultant. So it's kind of funny that I can't help myself with change. I really want to be, and I am starting to work with individuals. I have done getting ahead, working with people in poverty for many years. Mm-hmm. And but I really want to focus on individual growth and healing. And I have many skills to do that. So, I do find myself taking one more certification, and just not making the change. COVID is an excuse. All kinds of things have come up as reasons why I haven't done it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm really trying to get to the bottom of what is what is holding me back.
Sure.
Because there's so many things in place for me to just do it.
I love it. Sounds awfully familiar too. Absolutely. And then never feel I know enough. I need to okay. I love these comments in the chat. Thank you. These are all very good. And difficult, right? Very difficult. It's not just, oh, I'm going to do this. Very, very difficult. So thank you all for that. So for the next couple hours, again, on the next slide, it just kind of talks about what we're going to do today. I know everybody's names. I'm not going to lecture a whole lot today. You're actually going to have time to think, time to share with each other, share with the group, with whatever you're comfortable with. we're going to just talk about a few group rules on the next slide, but I'm hoping that this training today delivers some insights and tools that will help you begin the change process in a powerful and effective way for your life. So the group rules, what's said, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? What happens in the workshop stays in the workshop. Participate as fully as you feel comfortable. You're already going to feel uncomfortable enough with the process. Share as to the level of your comfort. Respect the views of others. Take responsibility for getting what you need out of this workshop. Be open to learn. Look for ways to apply what you learn. And I always ask, are there any other group rules that the group would like to add? Okay. So we'll move on to the next slide. So let's talk about technical change and challenges versus adaptive changes and challenges. So technical challenges, those of you in the corporate world probably are very familiar with these. Technical challenges have immediate solutions. They're critical knowledge and competencies needed to meet a goal. They already exist. We need to add a form. We need to improve this process. We need to make things more manageable. Those things are pretty quickly fixed. I know in our agency, oh, we need a form. Oh, now it needs to go. We're going to change the policy. Those are all very technical challenges and really don't require a lot of us. They don't require a lot of us adapting, changing, or anything like that. So when we talk about adaptive challenges, the adaptive challenges require the invention of new knowledge we can accomplish our goals. Adaptive challenges require us to change in response to the changes we'd like. It requires the creation of new knowledge, new ways of viewing the world, and the development of more complex capacity. So I'd like to share just a short, just a little conversation I had. I don't know, Reba, you may know, but everybody may not know that ODRC is getting ready to have custody staff, our correctional officers, wear body-worn cameras. So I don't know a lot of technical things about them. I know that they're going to record interactions that correction officers have with our incarcerated adults. And so I was talking to a STO, a correctional officer about 31 years old, about this. And he said to me, I'm not a fan of these cameras. I'm like, we haven't even gotten them yet. And he says, well, I have my own way of dealing with things. And I was a little agitated by the unwillingness to learn. So I said, well, it looks like you have to expand your capabilities and learn how to deal with things in different ways. If you treat everything, every problem, every interaction as if the only tool you have is a hammer, then you're going to have problems. So you need to expand. Maybe you need to learn how to deal with things in some different ways. And he was like, well, maybe you're right. He wasn't real comfortable with it, right? But that's an example. I hate to put him out there, but that's really an example of an adaptive challenge. There's no form, there's no policy, there's no process that we can quickly change to get results. We have to expand. We have to grow. Okay, so the next slide, let's discover what our immunities are. Again, I'm gonna ask some questions. You're gonna think about it. You can check in with your partner. We're gonna have a listener and a speaker in our share pairs. As the listener, I just want to share with everybody, it's not your job to push, pull, or challenge people to think differently. It's not your job to solve your partner's problems or fix them or give advice. We want you to follow your partner's pace. You can help them create something powerful by asking good questions and listening. As the speaker, it's always up to you to decide how much or how little you want to share. And so Reba, I don't know if you have arranged for people to have share pairs already.
I have not, but I will create those
Okay, no,
Very-
that's fine.
quickly.
So
And that's where we are, correct?
that's where we are. Yeah.
All right. So we have, Roxanne, are you going to do that or not? That's a question.
Do the,
Do a pair share.
I'll do a pair share. Yeah. I
Oh,
was actually,
okay.
I need to do a map too.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
I'm
right.
in. I'm in.
All right. All right. So I just need to make sure I am actually because, oh no, okay. Let me, Dee and Raylan, because you both are on your phone, I am going to put you two together in a room, just so you know. And you guys
Not
can-
yet.
Not yet. No. And we can figure that out. Okay, we can figure that out. All right. So we have Jamie and Roxanne. We have Alice and Susan, Dee and Raylan, and Teresa and Tina. And then I'll pop into the one with Dee and Raylan. Okay. So I'm going to open the rooms and any instructions there, Roxanne, what they're
Well,
doing
let's go to
first?
the next. Let's go to the next slide first, Reba.
Okay. Let me see if I can get to the
Please.
next. There we go. All right.
Okay, so here's the first thing that we're gonna do. It's kind of a warm up. Think of 3 to 5 people who know you well, love you, have your best interests at heart. If you could get significantly better at just one thing, what would they suggest for you that thing would be? Hear them in your head. If you can, I know a couple of people are driving, but maybe write down some things that they would say and push yourself. Ladies, push yourself to hear the challenge.
Yep. The challenge of that. And this was in your pre-reflection stuff. So you should have something to talk about. Roxanne, we'll take let's do about 5 minutes since this was kind of pre-work for them. If that makes sense.
So give them 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yep. Just to share this out because the other deeper stuff's going to come. So I'm going to open the rooms. Okay. Thank you, Raylan. Gotcha. All right. I'm going to open the rooms and then in 5 minutes in 4 minutes, you'll get a warning to close in a minute and you can hang on through that minute and then come back. All right. Okay. Here we go.
What I'd like to do. So what I'd like to do is kind of share before we start putting things into our columns. I would like to share just some examples of people who have some commitment goals. And we have, a little profile of a couple people. So we're going to talk about Peter, Shannon, and William. And Peter is a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company in New England. He started the business, years later decided to expand. Taking on more responsibility and more employees in different roles, Peter has encountered some personal challenges. So that's kind of an overview of Peter. Shannon is incarcerated for a felony drug possession. While incarcerated, her daughter was murdered. She struggles with the loss of her daughter and the constant anger and grief. And then we'll talk about William. William is the oldest young adult male in his family. He's a college graduate and works in the insurance business. Since COVID, he has been consumed with anxiety and isolation. He really, really desires a closer relationship with his family, but he's feeling disconnected from them. He does not share their same views or beliefs about the political climate, the pandemic, all the things that are going on right now that are divisive in our society. So when we look at Peter, Shannon, and William's column 1, the big thing that they need to change that would improve their life. Peter wants to be more flexible in his responses, especially regarding new definitions of roles and responsibilities. Shannon is striving to forgive the man who murdered her daughter. And William is seeking to be less judgmental of people who do not believe as he believes. So this is just a snapshot of some people who, you know, what their entries are for column 1. So now we are going to, before we fill in column 1, we're just going to talk about what we are committed to. So Reba, you can leave the screen right here. So Peter, what is Peter committed to? Is this true? Does Peter really need to be more flexible in his responses, especially regarding new roles and new definitions and roles? Does Shannon, is it true that she needs to forgive the man who murdered her daughter? Is it true for William that to be less judgmental of people? Does the first question is this true for me? The second question, and Reba, we can go to the next slide now. The second question is, does it implicate you? Are these changes yours to make? And so oftentimes when I've done immunity to change, there's been really, I think it's the immunity coming out. There's been people I feel like have been resistant to implicating themselves for the change. They said, well, you know, if this group would do this, well, if he would say he's sorry, well, if they would just listen to me. No. It's not about what changing our column 1. So does it implicate you and me? Is there room for improvement? Does Peter need to make some changes now that his company is expanding? Does Shannon need to forgive the person who murdered her daughter for her own quality of life? And does William need to be less judgmental with his family, even if they don't agree? Their column 1s implicate them. There's room for improvement. And lastly, it's something very important. It's very important to them. We can put something silly on, not silly, it's very functional, on our roadmap that, well, I need to talk to my employees every day, say good morning, or I need to make sure I walk 5 miles every day. Those are very technical things, probably with some adaptive challenges in them, but these things that are that Shannon, William, and Peter put in column 1 are, you know, when Jamie and I were speaking, when, you know, we can think a lot of things, but when, like Jamie said, when you say it out loud, it's pretty heavy. So everybody that shared has something very heavy that's very important to them. It implicates them, and it's true. It's true for you. So I want you to be true to you for column 1, not just what someone else wants to see from you, but something that is genuinely yours, something that you desire to change. Commitment that you currently hold, but is not fully realized right now. So let's go to the next slide, please. And let's fill in column 1. Let's fill, what is your improvement goal? And I think that what I'd like for you to know about the improvement goal is that it needs to be framed in a positive language. So, so for Jamie, she said she is tending to the urgent more than the important. So her commitment could be to, I'm committed to giving attention to the things that are important in my life and minimizing the urgent things in my life. I'm committed to using my time more efficiently, rather than, I don't want you to put something like, well, I'm not going to waste time. I want it to be something very, very positive language for you and your commitment. So I think that one of the column one, I have a lot of maps here, folks. And I pulled out some old maps of mine. One of my earlier commitments was that I'm committed to staying on the course of my life and completing my academic goals, because there was a lot of things I was doing that were interrupting that. And so that was my true. So go ahead and take a few moments to look at your, think about your improvement goal. And write it down if you're able to. Okay. Does anyone need any more time? Would anyone like to share?
Oh, hold on. Roxanne, let me pause recording.
Okay. Let's go to column 2 and see what some folks are saying about column 2. So we talked to Peter, who wants to be more receptive to new ideas, but I'm going to turn this chat off because it's blocking my view. Hold on. Okay. But so column 2 takes a look at what are we doing or not doing that goes against our goal for column 1. So Peter, who wants to be more receptive to ideas, when he really reflected on it, Peter is giving curt responses, cutting people off, overruling tone. Like, he wants to hear no ideas in his mind, but what is he actually doing? He's not hearing them.
Mhm.
Shannon wants to forgive the man who murdered her daughter. But Shannon, and that's not her real name, folks, but Shannon is a woman that I met who is incarcerated, and this was very heavy for her. Shannon is hanging on to that anger and the grief. She's not talking about it. She knows she needs to forgive, but there's something, is it Teresa? You talked about the cave. I love that analogy. And now that we're talking about Shannon, she's in that cave of anger and grief because that's where she needed to go at first. And she was realizing, and this cave isn't really suited anymore. But doesn't know how to come out of that cave. I love that you shared that. And William wants to be less judgmental of people who do not believe as they do. But what is Peter doing instead or not doing? Peter's making assumptions. He's not listening. Peter is believing his opinion is right and others are wrong. So, I mean, I think that these snapshots can really illustrate some things that we all may do or not do that goes against our goal. So we realized, I guess, in looking at column 2,
We've lost you, Roxanne.
Reba, I'm gonna have to turn this camera off one more time.
Okay, yeah. So could you
When we
reiterate your
look
column
at,
2?
Yeah.
Still can't hear you.
Reba?
Now I can, yeah.
We realize when we look at column 1 and when we look at column 2, what we're doing or not doing, we are responsible for actually creating our own obstacles to column 1. We get in our own way. Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at Peter. Peter wants to be more receptive to new ideas, but his column 2, how is he getting in his own way of change? He's giving curt responses. He's cutting people off. If someone tells Shannon, hey, you got to really, think about forgiveness and looking at this person as a flawed human, or maybe it was an accident. No. Is getting in her own way to forgiveness. So when we look at our column 2 that we're going to do in a moment, column 2 really begins to reveal a story that we tell ourselves, often without realizing that we are our own biggest obstacle sometimes. So let's look at column 2, and before you fill in column 2, what I want you to do is look at your behaviors, not your disposition. Make sure that it clearly undermines your improvement goal. And we don't have to know why. We don't have to know why right now. But column 2 is a fearless inventory, and there's no shame. There's no shame in this. And I urge you all to push below the surface. And when you fill in column 2, I don't want you to put something like, well, I get impatient. What do you actually do? You see, Peter was, I cut people off. I'm not listening. So we want to really create that picture of what we do or don't do that works against us. And again, don't try to explain it, but you can begin to just capture some things with some depth and honesty. Does anybody have any questions about what column 2 should look like?
Could you give us
I'm sorry, Teresa, go ahead.
That's all right. Could you give us some examples?
Yes. All right. Reba, can we go back to column the slide before? Peter wants to be receptive, but instead of being receptive, what is his behavior? His behavior, wow, he's not listening to new ideas. Like if I want to do something, my husband, quickly, we ain't doing that. Because he doesn't want to be more receptive to new ideas. No, I'm kidding. One of the maps that I did early on, I shared with you all that I was committed to staying on course for my life and my academic goals. One of the things, a lot of things I was doing, Teresa, my column 2, instead of really working on my academic goals, what I was doing or not doing in column 2, I was distracting myself with other tasks. So instead of studying or writing, hey, I had the best looking carpet in this town because I was vacuuming all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would. I was constantly hungry. Oh, I need to go make something to eat. I was talking to myself. I was telling myself a lot of my self-talk was really horrible. And I was waiting. I was doing nothing, waiting to be inspired. If that makes any sense at all today, it doesn't, but it sure did then. I would look on Facebook. I would look things up. I was just really horribly distracting myself and then sitting here like, why can't I get this done? Because I was standing in my own way. Does that help with some examples?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, just a little snapshot of me that's not so cute. But I had to kind of take a deep, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And that's what we want you to do with your pair shares. Look at your commitment and then really look at the behaviors that you're doing that go against that. How are you getting in your own way? And it's not, I'm impatient or I get restless. What are the behaviors that you're actually doing? And we want to make sure that it really is getting in your way. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So Reba, can we go to our pair share?
Yep. Do people need a couple minutes or
To think
you
about it?
all? Yeah. You want to think about it for a minute or so? And then we can go into pair shares. Okay, I'm going to pause recording and open up our rooms.
Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back. Column 2. So Jamie and I filled in our column 2. I hope everyone filled in theirs. So you can raise your hand. You can ignore me. Was anybody uncomfortable with column 2 behaviors?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I was too. Yeah. So I think that oftentimes change, attempts to change, look at, this is what I want to do. Sometimes we look at what we're doing instead. But that doesn't really solve the problem to the change we want to make, does it? So I'm going to pose a question to you all. What if the behaviors in column 2 really aren't the problem? Because they're really not. They're really not. So the next slide kind of gives us an illustration normal. So here's how we're seeing column 1 and column 2, like they're just going against each other. But maybe column 1 and column 2 are actually working together, and is hiding a hidden goal that we all have. It's something very personal and individual to us, but we spend a lot of energy, as you saw in column 2, preventing ourselves from obtaining the change that we absolutely want. If we really look at how much energy we're spending on it, it must be very important to us. Our bad behavior might actually be good behavior that's protecting us from something else, which could be our immunity. So, and this is where most change processes stop. Most strategies identify bad behavior and then, okay, here's how you can stop the bad and increase the good. But I would really like to take a look at the next column. And that's column 3. And so let's take a look at our worry box. All right. When we look at column 2, what we have written, consider doing the opposite of these behaviors. So I will share that I shared column 1 for me is I'm committed to learning more of God's word for my growth as a Christian woman. My column 2 is something that I'm not proud of, but these are my behaviors. I watch TV, talking on the phone, playing with my phone. I give myself permission to not do what I'm supposed to do. I ignore the nudgings of the Holy Spirit. Those are things that I'm doing or not doing. So what am I worried about? What am I worried about? What does this worry box look like? So Reba, can we go to the next slide? You see the worry box there, but consider the worry box. We may have a competing commitment. So if we look close at column 2 and then look at our worry box, we can begin to realize why it's difficult to reach our goals in column 1. So what's our biggest worry? What's our biggest discomfort or fear that comes up when we think about doing the opposite of the behavior we identified in column 2? So I'll use mine for example. I'll use my old math, but I was committed to achieving my academic goals. And I shared with the group, I distracted myself with anything that needed done. I had self-talk, don't worry about it, giving myself permission not to. I was waiting for inspiration. And so when I looked at my worry box, I was looking at my hidden commitments. If I didn't spend time with my husband, if I didn't talk to my friends, if I didn't do all these things, I was going to be faced with actually doing the academic work that I said I wanted to do. And my worry was, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not smart enough? What if I can't do it? I had super imposter syndrome. Like you can't do that. That I was committed to protecting myself from being exposed. So that was my worry box. And so when we look at our worry box, we see that the behaviors that we're doing in column 2 are actually allowing us to protect ourselves. So if we go to the worry box on the next slide, before we get in our column 2 is supposed to be uncomfortable. So hopefully you all are uncomfortable with what we're doing in what you're doing in column 2. I know I am. Reba, can you go back one slide? So if your share partner, when you talk about your worry box, when you consider doing the opposite of column 2, what kinds of worries, fears, or anxieties come up for you? What is your gut telling you? So folks, this is a gut-wrenching, oh crap moment. This is the, you should be feeling this in your gut. And when I realized, what if I really can't do it? Man, that was uncomfortable. So I want you to take a few minutes. I forget how much time we allotted to sharing your worry box. with your
Yeah,
partner?
I think about 10 minutes, but we weren't going to then we weren't going to share the competing commitments. We were just going to share the worry and talk about that.
Okay.
And then have people process the competing commitments on their own, but then get to the big assumption with the share. So however you want to work, that's fine.
I think let's do 5 minutes about the worry box. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Stop
Put
recording.
in the next slide. Great. Peter wanted to be more receptive to ideas. So what was Peter doing or not doing? Peter was giving curt responses, cutting people off. And Kurt's hidden competing commitment, his column 3 was, I'm independent and capable of making decisions. If he gave others that decision making, maybe he wouldn't feel independent and capable. Shannon's is huge. Shannon wants to forgive the man who murdered her daughter. She's in the cave, Teresa. She's holding on to that anger and grief, right? She's not talking about it. Her hidden commitment, her column 3 is, maybe forgiveness will mean that what he did to her daughter was okay, and that she'll forget her daughter. William wants to be less judgmental of the people who do not believe as him. He quickly makes assumptions. He's not listening to others. He believes his opinions are right and others are wrong. William must be the patriarch of the family and doesn't feel there's any room for him to be wrong. So those are the, if you look at column 3, we can see that column 3 and column 1, it's like 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. But it's really kind of helping us and protecting us. So I shared with you my column 1 of one of my former maps was to achieve my academic goals. And I told you all the things I was doing in column 2 that distracted me from that. Column 3, I put I would feel empty. I was afraid of losing my relationship. I was afraid of feeling lonely by not doing the things that I wanted to do. And I felt like I was vulnerable. I feel like, and I wrote down here, I would lose connectivity, and that was related to my loneliness. So our column 2 behaviors are the expression of our complexity of how our 2 competing goals are working against each other. So if you're looking at column 1, 2, and 3, you can see from the next slide, put this picture in here, especially on a winter day in Ohio. The beach is beautiful, right? It's a beautiful thing. So is the immune system. Our immune system, it protects us. We hear about immunity a lot in these last 2 years about protecting us from disease, but our immunity, our immune system also protects us from our human hurts, our psychological hurts, and it attempts to save our lives. Okay, so the slide with all the monsters, the monsters and the people with the sword. Sometimes we misread our helpers as enemies and resist them. We often engage our minds and bodies in work that works against our best interest. And folks, we're very successful at this. Column 1 is column 1 can look like it's bad behavior, and column 2 looks like it's good behavior to the immune system. So our hidden commitments are making sure that our worry box never, ever to keep things exactly how they are. And our immune system continuously manufactures these antigens to change. Okay, the next slide, deep in the ocean. See the little diver there? Just an illustration that we're in deep water here, really taking a look at these things that we're doing and why we're not, and things that we're supposed to be doing, and what is protecting us. So this is important to our self-protection. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to look at column 4. Power is the big assumption. It's the inverse of column 3. So if we look at column 4, we get to the big assumption by asking ourselves, if I don't uphold my column 3 commitments, okay, if I don't protect myself from being lonely, if I don't protect myself from failing, then what's going to happen? The big assumptions make visible a bigger world that we haven't allowed ourselves to see. So, and this helps us create an adaptive solution by surfacing what's our big assumption behind our competing commitments. So we create our own world. And I use this saying, I love this saying, fish don't talk about the water, because it's so natural. Our immunities are so natural at protecting us that we don't look at them, we don't acknowledge them, we don't even realize they're there. So just an example of column 4, I told you my column 1 was committing to academic success. I told you all the things I was doing that didn't contribute to that. It was a competing behaviors. My hidden commitment was that I didn't want to be lonely. My big assumption in column 4 was that I was vulnerable. I would be alone. And I really was going to look stupid because I didn't know if I could even do it. I didn't know if I could reach any academic goals. And I have a whole lot of things here I'll share. I was assuming that I would look stupid, I would be lonely, and I wrote down here, I would be insignificant and filled with shame. People would see me for what I really am, ruined and unworthy. Geez, Reba, why is this hitting me hard today? Woo, I remember those feelings.
Yeah.
That was very real. Those were
Yeah.
very real. So I'm hoping everybody's uncomfortable because you're supposed to be. Does anybody have any questions so far about filling in their column 4? What does it make sense? Let's take a look at this slide. The point. What's the point of immunity to change? It's the intention of the immunity to change exercises to help you create, again, an adaptive solution by encouraging you to surface these things that we tend not to pay attention to. Surface the big assumptions behind our competing commitments. Surface those big assumptions that are behind. This is the most reliable method for disrupting all this personal immunity that we have that's interfering with our success and preventing us from achieving column 1. Kind of worked backwards from column 4 to column 1 on that. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So let's go back to our map with everybody's stuff, Peter, Shannon, and William, and see what their big assumptions were in column 4. Peter wants to be receptive. Instead, Peter was giving curt responses to any new ideas, cutting people off. His hidden competing commitment was that he's independent and capable of making decisions. What was Peter's big assumption? The big assumption was, I won't be seen as the leader. It's his company, right? I won't be seen as the leader and will lose self-respect and the respect of others. Shannon, who knows she needs to forgive the man who murdered her daughter. About it, forgiveness, her competing commitment is forgiveness will mean that what he did was okay and that I will forget my daughter. And the big assumption for Shannon was, if I do all of that, it means I didn't love my daughter enough. William wants to be less judgmental of the people who do not believe as he does. He makes assumptions. He's not listening and believes his opinions are right. His hidden competing commitment was, I must be the patriarch of the family and I cannot be wrong. What's the big assumption? What if you are wrong? What happens? I will lose the love and respect of my family. And so I think one of the big things for column 4 is it doesn't have to be true. And it doesn't even have to make sense. That I wrote down that I'm going to be exposed for what I really am, ruined and unworthy. I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to be lonely the rest of my life. Is any of that true? No, but it was a truth to me. You hear people say, my truth. And I want to say, oh, you need an immunity map. Uncover that, you know? So Reba, if we go to the next column, that big assumption may look ridiculous, but it may be true and it may be false. It can be both. The big assumptions are instrumental in creating our reactions. So William saying, I'm the patriarch, I cannot be wrong. Because he has this immunity to being wrong. He's disagreeing with people who don't believe as he does. He's making assumptions about them. He's not listening to them. You know, we're working from column 4 back to column. I mean, when it makes sense. Most often our assumptions have control of us. And I think that the immunity to change map really gives us an opportunity to not be that a big assumption. It gives us an opportunity to step away from it, assess it. Is it true? Is it false? And put it where it belongs. Because oftentimes it's not true. So we allow our assumptions from our past to continue to shape how we understand the world and our experiences.
Okay.
So me feeling that I'm going to be alone, I'm unworthy, I'm ruined, I'm stupid. When they did not have me, when I looked at them objectively, this one's false, this one's false, this one could be true, and false, but it doesn't have me anymore. I have it. I'm the puppet master of my big assumptions now. Okay, so I want to take a few moments. Let's generate your column 4. Start with the statement that I assume that if, and don't worry about evaluating whether they're true or not, but generate these big assumptions based on what is your competing commitment. Did Peter, Shannon, and William's examples help you all? Yes. Okay, great. All right. So does everyone already know their big assumptions? Okay, Teresa's shaking her head yes. Okay. Do you guys need a few moments? Reba's shaking her head yes.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So is Tina. Oh my gosh, you guys. I see smiles too. Okay, Dee, I think you're smiling too. I mean, sometimes when you see these big assumptions, I'm hoping, ladies, that like when I saw mine, I'm like, that is dumb. Did I really believe that? Not that we are dumb, but we have these things that we're allowing to just, control things. I'm like, oh no, you have to go. You have to go. So if we go to the next slide, Reba, I think we can go to the next.
Yes, yeah, because we're coming up on time. We have 11:52, so we can get through some more of this. And then maybe at the end, if you all want to stick around after 12 and do a pair share to talk about your big assumptions. How does that sound? Does that sound good? Let's see where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you, Alice, for that, for what you shared in the chat. You're right. You're absolutely right. So if we look at our big assumptions, we're going to go backwards. It gives birth to what we've written in column 3, our competing commitment, which generates the things that we're doing that are preventing column 1. So this is kind of a conceptual map for us, which presents you with a powerful message. This is a powerful illustration of the genius of your psychological immune system. It's a genius. It's protecting you. This is actually a map of you caring deeply for yourself and keeping you from experiencing pain. So you may have identified the symptoms of the problem. And really, I think sometimes the big assumptions are the problem. So on the next slide, oh, never mind, Reba has it. When we look at our big assumptions, is it true or false? That's kind of black and white thinking. Is it always true? Is it always false? Are there things that I'm going to attempt in life that I'm really not equipped to do? Yeah. But in my map for obtaining my academic, no, I can. I did have the capability. And so there was things lying to me to protect me. So we move beyond our immunity to change by first becoming curious about our big assumptions. Sometimes, and for me, honestly, when I did my map this first time, it was the first time that I ever looked at my big assumptions. All right. So how do we make assumptions? I want to go to our ladder of inference. We observe things. And we see it as data. Our experiences are like a videotape in our brain. We select what we want from that, and we add our own meaning to it, whether it's cultural or personal. And then we make assumptions on the meanings we've added. I tell my stepson all the time, just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. Everything that pops in your head isn't a fact. And so then we draw conclusions. We adopt these beliefs about the world and ourselves. And then we take actions based on that. And our actions really, when we look at it, is column 2. Okay.
Roxanne, when you first showed this, the first time we did this, this made so much sense, right? And I have used this ladder to talk about, bias, surfacing, those kind of hidden things, yes, right? That lead to us taking action that are counter to actually what we probably already believe, right?
Yeah. And we just keep climbing that ladder. We're staying true to it sometimes, aren't we?
Definitely.
Yep. Okay. I think these next videos are pretty short, but it talks about what we see and how we make assumptions based on, honestly, not much information. And we show these videos just for you to give yourself permission to challenge the assumptions that you have. So these fun videos are meant to be fun and to show you that our assumptions and perceptions can be wrong sometimes. Okay.
Yeah. So the links of these are in your workbook, in your guidebook. So if you definitely take a look at them between now and the next session, they are fun and they're funny, but they're like really eye-opening.
Yeah, they're awesome. Okay. So you all have your assumptions. Let's test them, but you need to test them in a way that you feel safe, that you feel is a moderate, it's actionable. We don't need to just convince ourselves, hey, if that's not true, that's not true. Take a step. Can you do this? Can you focus on the important and let some of the urgent go, or minimize the urgent that's even coming into your life? Can you transition into what you want to do now, as opposed to what you were doing before you were retired? So take moderate steps, take actionable steps for that, and test it. So for the next 2 weeks, challenge your big assumptions, make sure it's safe. And then don't jump off an emotional cliff. Make sure you don't harm yourselves. But but just take a few steps at first, moderate steps in a series of your own experiments. And you can actually do this. You have to do something or you get sucked right back into the subjectivity of your big assumptions. So for the next 2 weeks, don't attempt to change your behavior or your big assumptions. Do attend to how it influences your life. Take notice of what that tape is that's playing in your mind. And specifically ask yourself, what do I notice does or does not happen as a result of my big assumptions? And are they true? Okay.
So that's really kind of, these are just some next steps that you can do. This is all based on, I will tell you that, all based on the book Immunity to Change by the authors Robert Keegan and Lisa Laskell-Leahy. A lot of research has gone into this. It's a good book. It's a good read. So that might be something to put on your list to do. And if you're interested, whenever we are done with this session, I will send out who participated in it. And if you want to reach out to your partner, your pair share partner, feel free to do that and test your assumptions, talk through it, all those kind of things. So we really want this to be a learning community for everyone. And so we would, welcome that kind of thing to happen. All right.
Okay.
And so we are right at 11:59, but I think this would be a good question to end on. And then if you want to stay and do a pair share around your big assumptions, happy to extend the time for that.
So I apologize for turning my camera on and off. It seems like when I turn the camera off, I don't lose the capability of the voice, but yeah, does anyone want to share? Was this powerful for you? Tina, I see Tina shaking her head.
It was powerful for me. Everyone's contributions, and it just provided insight into what's happening with me.
Yay!
Yeah.
And the cave share is just something I really have to think more about for me. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Teresa, I think
that was you. Yeah, that was
Teresa,
awesome.
I have to build that into this because that was so perfect. I'm stealing it from you.
It's yours. It was God. It's yours.
Well, so yeah, we need to know what cave share was. Cave share?
Oh, yeah. So Teresa was talking about the story in when Saul was chasing King David, right? So Teresa, if you want to just say a few words about that for those who missed that one.
So when David was running from Saul, he ended up taking his men and they ended up in a cave. The cave in the beginning was a place of protection for him. And then at one point it changes and he begins to call it his place of hell. And that was because it was time for David to move. And so that's pretty much the cave. That's the cave.
Thank you, Teresa.
And Teresa did ask if we would be sending out the PowerPoint, and we can do that. We'll put it in a PDF and send it out to you. Okay. Just make sure that I have your email addresses that you registered with. So if that's not the email address you want it sent to, put it in the chat and I'll capture that. Okay. And I'm going to stop recording now. So if you are watching this later, we are at the end of our session time together. And then I will quit sharing my screen and then we can talk about staying over a few minutes. So.